Okay, so let's see what we have for discussion on the wrapping up chapter 3 with debt stuff today. All right. So let's hit the build a credit score one here. You guys had to finish off that the remaining part of that video. There was just a few minutes left, but let me throw this one out to you this morning. If you had to convince someone that getting into debt to build a credit score, which is one of our myths, would hurt them long term, what would you say? Josh, 1, 2, 3, and 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Taylor. If you had to convince someone that, hey, and everybody says build a credit score, but I think it might hurt you long term. Well, how would you convince them? What were some things you might say?
I would just say that you don't need a credit score.
Okay.
Credit really is only a thing in America, and that's such a scam.
Okay, good. Why is credit, and somebody else can jump in besides Taylor, you can tackle it if you want, but why is it that you don't need credit, or what are you doing when you try to get a good credit score? Spending more money than you need to is one thing. What else are you doing that goes contrary to baby step number 2? Going into debt. In order to build up a credit score, you have to go into debt. Now, you might convince yourself, well, I'll pay off the balance every month, right? And 0%, you got 30 days, and if you pay it off, then there's no interest and no harm, no foul, and I'll build up my credit score. But we went through a number of things that can kind of go wrong with that plan long term. And so I think the way you put it, Taylor, I like the best is that you just don't need it. You only need it if you're going to go into debt. But managing your money with what you have and the income that you have and the money that you have each month, each week, each 2 weeks, that's a great way to live. I mean, that's a great way to live. You don't need to do the credit score because the credit score does require going into debt. Okay, so we're going to wrap up. This is kind of a fun video. It's the last section of chapter 3. Chapter 7. Most videos. All right. Here. Okay, let's look at discussion question number 1 for starters here. So, how have you seen debt hurt people's lives? Have you got any examples of debt, bankruptcy, or just into debt and having trouble that it's caused some problems? Any stories to share?
Sure. He and I used to have his neighbor. He used to have that. He used to have a brand new Beamer. I was in like the I-8 BMW came out.
Yeah.
And he had for once about 2.5 months. And next thing I know, I looked up and I see it sold away from $1,000.
Yeah. So it kind of had his moment in the limelight for a little bit, driving that thing around, and then it was gone. And then he's still left with the debt. And probably other debts too, I'm guessing. The Beamer was just one reflection of that. Good. Okay. Anybody else have a story to share with somebody got in trouble? They're out there. So, and then of course, divorce and other things. Money problems are the number one thing, and it's really debt problems more than it is money problems. Right? Some people might think, well, we don't make enough money, so we fight, and then we're getting a divorce. That's really not probably the answer. They're probably not communicating like we're going to see in the next chapter on actually that's chapter 5, on relationships and how you kind of deal with money. It's probably that they didn't talk about it, they didn't have a plan for their money with a zero-based budget, and so that's what really led to divorce or start of other fights. All right, so gazelle intensity in the video. It's always kind of fun to hear that one. Why is it so important? How can you use that intensity in your life you to think about is where else do you see that gazelle intensity, where to pay off the debts, you're going to be really intense. Gazelle intense, where the cheetah's chasing you. Where else do you guys use gazelle intensity in your lives? What do you think? What was our number 5, Josh? Was it? Or was it 10? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Where do you see gazelle intensity? Where have you used it? Maybe it's worked to your benefit. Or no, just in general. I'd like you to tell me about gazelle intensity. You know, why you can ask why is it important, or, and then I want to kind of get you guys thinking about, do you see that in other areas of your life where gazelle intensity was important? So go ahead, Anna. Okay. And so how does that help having it? What do you do better than you would have otherwise? What are you doing differently if you have gazelle intensity as opposed to not having gazelle intensity?
You don't have your
Okay. So your habits, spending habits for one thing, maybe. Doris, did you want to add anything? Okay. All right. So where else do you guys have some gazelle intensity, hopefully? Thinking of you. Sports, thank you, right? So you guys, how many of you are on some sort of athletic team? Usually 80% of you roughly. So that gazelle intensity, that what you bring to the game day, right? That intensity is what he's talking about here for your life for getting out of debt. That's what we want to get and get jacked up and say, we're going to do this. Now that's not easy to do because you're kind of going all the time. For game day, you've just got that 2 hours of time or whatever to have that intensity and keep that intensity or behind. But here we're talking about day after day. If you've got a mountain of student loan debt that you're trying to knock out, you know, we're talking beans and rice and beans for a number of months. But you start to see the progress with the tools we're learning in this course. You can start to see the balance coming down. You start to see what your income is going to look like by doing your zero-based budget. And you see the other things, the debt's going down, the net worth getting up, maybe getting less negative, as the case may be with students starting their own job. So that's the intensity he's trying to build and say is really important. And that's what he's observed for 30 years he's been doing financial advice, is that you have to have that intensity to really make it work. He has lots of people, by the way, on his radio show that'll call in and say, yeah, we read your books. They're calling in maybe because they're debt-free. He does something called the debt-free stream for his episodes. If you listen to some of his radio show, every hour they do one where people call in and they basically tell them their story. And so sometimes the stories go, well, we got your stuff like 10 years ago and we started it, and then we kind of fell off the wagon, and then 3 years later, you know, we figured out we really got to do it. Right? And then the intensity grew. So it's like they have the knowledge. To have the knowledge is one thing, but without the intensity, it's not going to probably pan out. And especially for a married couple, they both have to be on the same page with that intensity. Having one partner not fully engaged with it isn't going to work either. Okay, let's see. Let's go ahead and get into groups of 3 to 4 people. We got an exercise. So minimum of 3, maximum of 4. Go ahead and self-select, and if you don't find a group, I will put you in a group, or I might have to split up groups, but minimum of 3 people, maximum of 4. Minimum of 3, maximum of 4. Let's take these, Josh.
Okay.
Oh, wow, that's excellent. All right, so we got 2 of you here. So what are you guys a team or not? Okay, so you 3. Okay, so we got to go split the bill. Oh, we got these 2 too. Oh, you're going over there. Okay, oh, both these 2 are going over there. And then it looks like we got a team of 4, and Taylor and you guys move around. Did everybody get one? Everybody else got one? Okay, so this is the debt snowball exercise that he talked about. So let's go over the debt snowball. You guys just learned about it on the video if you're paying attention. What do you do for the debt snowball? What's the technique? Just kind of an overview. Did somebody pick up on what we're doing? Yeah, Michael.
The debt snowball basically said they have to write all your debts from lowest amount to the most biggest amount that you have.
Now, is it the lowest interest rate or the lowest debt?
Lowest debt.
Lowest debt, right? So a lot of times, people, and in fact, I just Googled, or not Googled, I went to that Financial Mentor debt snowball calculator. They ordered it by interest. Dave Ramsey doesn't order it by interest, and I like that technique because if you're gazelle intense, you want to have some of those easy wins. Remember when we said it might take you a number of months to kill off your debts? So start with the lowest debt, which is the balance that you have on your account. You're going to reorder those debts. So you guys can kind of reorder on the side, or if you want to use the back, whatever you want to do. But you need to kind of come up with an ordering of the debts, and then we'll go from there. And then we're going to do a couple extra bonus exercises. So we got some questions at the bottom, but look over that stuff. So that's these people's debt situation, and we want to create a debt snowball for them. So the exercise says to go do this at the bottom. We're gonna do this together. I'll do it on the big screen, but not right away. I want you guys to kind of figure this out. Put the debts that you think in the right order that they should go. So amongst you and your group, say, oh, this one should be number 1, this one should be number 2, and then calculate out the minimum payments. Then I want you to add a column. This is kind of bonus here. I want you to calculate the first month's interest. So of this payment that you're making, it's a $22 minimum payment. You have a 19.9% interest rate, current balance of $600. When you make that $22 payment, how much of your payment is actually going towards interest? So for all of these debts, I want you to calculate the interest payment as well in a new column here, right to the left.
These are photos.
What's that?
These are
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, pull up phones, put on airplane mode. You would for me. Use your phone as a calculator. First month's interest. And then if you want, you can kind of order the payments like saying this is payment number 1, is the lowest one is 600, that's number 1, number 2, the next one, so forth. No, I would not. I already do you interest.
Do you prefer after minimum payment, or do you just want it after?
Let me see what you're. Oh, you're at down on the question. Or what are you? Oh, okay. Oh, just what the first month's interest payment is. So, did you guys get that yet? It's close to 20%. So put in your calculators. And I'm going to walk you guys through this one. Make sure you got it. What'd you get? Okay, so yeah, no, you want to ignore the payment. So listen up, everybody. So this is the thing that I find most freshman, sophomore, and college students struggle with. And it's pretty easy once you get it. So whenever you have a loan, the money you owe when you have an interest rate, the amount you ever owe the bank contractually is just your outstanding balance times the interest. Forget about the payment. The payment has a combination of you paying off the debt and the interest. So when I'm asking for the interest, all you're going to do is take 0.199. Go ahead and put that in your calculators if you want. 0.199 times, I owe these clowns $600. So $600, so roughly 20% of $600. But now these are always expressed in general as annual interest rates. So on a given month, to make it a monthly, what do I need to do? Divide by 12. So divide by 12, and shout out your answers. What'd you get?
995.
995 is the right answer. So $9.95 is the first month's interest. And then I want you to do that for all of these payments, because it's kind of interesting then to look at how much you're paying the debt off, depending on what type of card it is and other things. It can vary. And then go ahead and total your total amount of interest that you're paying at the very bottom. You're going to go ahead and sum total that as well. So give off those numbers. And then you're also going to want to sum total the minimum payments. So make sure you do a total down here.
You're saying we add all those.
Yeah, so you need to calculate each of these answers of the 7 answers or whatever they are. Total the interest, total the payments. And that's what you've kind of gotten, this person's gotten themselves into in terms of accumulating debt over time with some electronics, a car, a student loan, some credit cards. Pretty normal, maybe a loan from dad for a medical bill, a knee surgery. Divided by 12. Yep, you're always doing a monthly interest rate. I don't have the answer actually, so yeah. You did it right though. 0.2395. Remember to change your decimal over. You're going to follow that formula each time. So the interest payment is equal to the annual interest rate, which I'm going to just do the first one that we did together, 0.199 times the balance of 600 divided by 12. And so really this chunk of it here is the monthly interest rate, by the way. Mathematically, you can kind of think of it as annual interest rate, monthly interest rate when you divide it by 12. So then you can, the math works either way. You could divide this by 12 first and then multiply it times 600. So for each one of those, you're just kind of knocking them down. Okay. That looks about right. I don't have the answer right.
Two of these.
0.068. So you're always sliding over 2 decimal places.
Wait for month.
6 seconds, yeah. So when I did this 19.9, so remember when it's 6.8%, that is mathematically equivalent to, this is timesing it times 100 is what we're doing. But whenever you have a percent sign, the thing that you're looking at has been multiplied by 100. So then you're basically just sliding this decimal place back 2 spots, 1, 2. You're dividing by 100 essentially. But you just kind of memorize that it's 0.068. That's what we did with 19.9, 1, 2. We just went back 2. You're always doing that. So on those ones with 6.8, that's the way you need to treat it, or 4.8. It is 0. Yep, that's correct. Yep, for dear old dad, 0% interest means, and you're really following the same formula: 0 times 3,000 equals 0. The interest payment is 0.
got 19. Perfect.
Make sure you get both totals here. We need the total of the minimum payment and the total of your interest. I actually do not have this calculated, so I'm going to rely on you guys for the right answer. So you want the total of the minimum payments. I need this number, and then I need this number. So those of you who calculated it, what did you get for numbers here for interest? Just shout them out if you're wrong. We'll just double check. 277 what? 277.18. Did anybody else get that? Or maybe you guys aren't done yet. Did you total up the interest column? I'll just put that down here. We'll double check that once everybody gets there.
Yeah, I got 277.
19. Okay, so we're within a penny. We're pretty close for rounding here.
Bless you.
Everybody getting around the 277, 18 or 19? The grand total. Up there.
Sir, for the
You guys make sure you double check each other's line items. I don't have the answers here, so.
loan from dad would be 0 for the interest.
That's right. Yep. 0% times the balance is 0. So you're actually following the same formula. This would be 0 times 3,000 divided by 12. It all collapses to 0.
Just make
So it still works. Yep. All right, so that's why I put you in teams, so you guys can, I guess you guys, what happened to this team? Taylor, Mike? I guess you're on the same team, so I can help you out on another team to verify. Did you do that? Did that work out for you? Okay. All right, Raven, let me take your answers here. You got both the answers? Okay. All right, so I don't have an answer key, but it sounds like we had 2 people verify the interest, so you guys can verify your numbers. This is what Raven had, and it sounded like another person verified. So 995, $50, 67, 104, 19, 0 for 0 dad, and 2583, 277.18. Let me know if you have questions about like one that you didn't get right or something. I just want you guys to be able to do this like rock solid. Like you got to be able to calculate these things. And then the total payments, yeah, we need to, so all of these debt obligations total up to be $916, almost $1,000 a month for this person. All right. So now, let me go and show you. Is everybody cool with that? You guys do that? Okay. Thank you, Raven. All right, so now we got 916 over here. And so this should be, if you total up all your minimum monthly payments, you've got $916. So this is what's going to be going out the door. And then this is just a reminder that you're paying $277 in terms of interest because you couldn't wait for it. Now, with the medical bill, you know, sometimes things might happen, right? So, but certainly with the credit cards and the car loans and other things, that ends up being pretty costly every month, a decent chunk of change, and that's not unusual. All right, so on your Foundations view page, this is what you guys don't have to do on your own. It looks like somebody pulled this up, which is fine, but it's not required. I was just going to do it as a class. So this is the tool that he has called the debt snowball calculator. What I was doing up here is I was entering in the first ones, and I left the last 2 off. But each time we go, when I enter in a new debt, it goes in order. So notice these are already ordered automatically by the tool, 600, 1,000, 2,000. So from lowest debt to highest debt. So far, this person has $39,000 worth of debt. So the total's up there. And I'm not done yet, so let's see. So we're gonna add a debt. And what's the last one? We got the dad loan. So we'll put family loan here, family loan of 3,000 even, was it?
Yep.
And then the minimum payment, dad wanted 20 bucks. Interest rate is 0%, save. So now you see dad just flipped right in there into that schedule. And then we got one more, the knee surgery, a little medical bill. There's my medical, there's medical. Current balance, and it doesn't matter, those little icons are just for display purposes only. But, so we had a $5,000 balance and a minimum payment of $100 a month to the hospital, 6.2% interest. Oops, not 602, 6.2. Okay, so there we have it. So now this person has $47,360 worth of debt. So on your questions down at the bottom, you've got some more things to do, work on with your team. So this person makes gross income of $40,000, 20% for taxes. What's the percentage of debt compared to income? What are some ways to get out of debt faster? So continue on now. You got this information here that you can use. By the way, this thing shows the debt snowball. I kind of had it hidden up here. The calculator shows you if you're doing the debt snowball payment method, April of 26 is when you're debt free. Kind of a long time for this particular person. Debt snowball means you're always going to be paying the 916. So even when we pay off this one, pay off this one, pay off this one, so technically we don't have those minimum payments anymore, right? Because it's paid off. We're still going to be paying the full 916. We're going to make our minimum payments here, but everything left is going to go towards the smallest debt. So that'll help. That's the snowball effect, that it's going to keep knocking out the smallest debt faster. Right? Number 2. That's what you need to think. How much are the minimum, if only the minimum payments are made, how much is going toward the debt monthly? Actually, that question is based off of the interest, at least for this first part. So number 2 is just looking for the 916. It's a little confusing on how they got it worded. 916 is really all that. You don't have to raise it. You can say 277 with the interest. That answer. 916 is the minimum. You don't need it for foundation. Foundations is open to the public. Yeah, that's true. Okay, I'll show you after that. Yeah, it's open to the general public. No, so just for this, the next 3 days was what was on the screen. So we just want the date in which all your debts are paid off. Oh, just for the first one. Yeah, we're not doing it. The whole thing. So that's how the purpose of Snowball is to take a big picture, because you're always going to be making the 916 no matter what. So as you pay off the debt, let me just let me put it to you this way. This is the way the debt snowball works, and this is the most important thing. When I paid this off, this off, this off, this off, this off, this off, and the only thing left is my student loans, how much am I paying towards my student loan every month? Louder? 916. That's the debt snowball, right? We've already committed to paying 916. So even when my other debts are paid off, the Sally Mae Sally Mae tells me I only need to pay 220. I'm paying 916. That's the power of the debt snowball, is that we're always going to be piling on the extra payments to each debt, and that allows you to get out of debt faster. That make sense? So that's why it's called the debt snowball. Is the last payment here, instead of 220, you'll be paying 916.
So
Go ahead, Dustin.
do we have the debt and do we have to?
No. So it's that minimum payment always includes the amount that's going towards your debt and the amount that's going towards interest. So let's just call that $10. That means $12 is going towards your balance. So next month you're going to owe $588. See what I mean? So part of it's what we call principal, or the debt reduction. Part of it's interest. Yeah, the interest is already in it. Yeah. So you're just putting the 916. What's that? April 2026. Okay, just another kind of quick glimpse at this. This is the schedule that you can print off as well. And as you pay off that debt, look at what happens at the end. Using the debt snowball, it turns into 916. And here it turned into 220, 440, 916, and then 916 wipes it out the rest of the way. That's the debt snowball, is that we're taking those other payments and throwing it towards the last one. Yeah. It's like
Look it up.
Right. So the debt to income ratio is the debt to income ratio. So we got your monthly debt payment divided by your monthly income. So you've got your 916 up top, and then whatever you guys calculated for monthly income, that's the percentage of your income. Normally, you'd like to keep that around 25% minimum for a house. So this person almost has a house payment going on already. They're kind of in a little trouble. All right, any other last questions on this exercise? That last part of the question, why don't we do it a little bit as a class? What are some ways to get out of debt faster? It's kind of open-ended. What are some ways to get out of debt faster? What's that?
Stop taking out loans.
Stop taking out loans. Yeah, so don't dig a hole. That was one of his stories from his video. You can't get out of debt by taking on more debt, right? It's literally impossible. So yeah, definitely stop taking out loans. Good.
Sell your car.
Pay off your interest. Sell your car or sell something, right? Yeah. So you might sell your car, but maybe you need your car or something, but you can sell something else. You might have stuff laying around the house or the apartment or the dorm that you can sell. Okay. What else? Work more hours. Great. Yeah. So gazelle intensity means you're working, 20 hours a week. Maybe you bump up to see if you can put in some more time, get another little side job, a little side gig going, right? That's gazelle intensity. You're trying to pick up the extra income. Like, all right, I'm not going to work. I don't want to work this extra job forever, but I can do it for the next 10 months until I pay off this debt. And every dollar I earn from this side job, I'm going to throw at the debt. right? So that kind of mentality, that's gazelle intensity, kind of digging and gripping and clawing your way into finding some way to knock it down. Okay, good. So we're going to do the case studies next. So if you want to flip over your paper, we're going to look at Jerome. Jerome and the money for college. So here it is. I think you guys already gave some of these answers. So during his summer hours, Jerome volunteers at the Red Cross, works 10 hours a week at the social service organization, saves some money for college. He's about to start his junior year. Unfortunately, he's out of money. The 2-year tab for tuition, room, board, and books is nearly 20 grand. He has the option to borrow money through low-interest student loan programs. As a result, Jerome is thinking about taking out student loans so he can finish school and get a job to pay them off quickly. Should Jerome take out the student loans or not to pay for the last 2 years? So let's just have an open discussion about this one. You don't have to write anything down at this point. What do you think? Is it an automatic that he should take out the 20 grand in student loans? Then no. If he's following Dave Ramsey, then no.
Yeah, but like what other options does he have?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think you kind of hit it, Taylor, is when we have the easy student loan option, do we really ever explore other options, right? So if you start to kind of mentally close the door on the student loans, or at least close it a little. So I'm not completely, I don't think you all should drop out of school with student loans, but I think you should take that decision seriously. Like, it's not just automatic. I don't want you to fall into many other students' ideas of, well, a student loan is what you do, a car loan is what you do, a loan is what you do. You see what I mean? Like, that's kind of our culture. So you can be challenging yourself to say, well, does it have to be 20? Right? And then you take Teresa's advice and say, well, could I go pick up another job? Right? Could I, or maybe over the summer, and, it'd be fun to play video games with my friends and work the 20-hour part-time job at McDonald's. But could I go work for Walmart DC, busting my tail for 40 hours a week, making $19 an hour? Is that a possibility? All of a sudden you start kind of thinking about other options where you might be able to bring that 20 grand per year, which might be the maximum allowed, and that's what a lot of students do, is let's just take the maximum. And you start thinking, gosh, maybe I can put together enough money from different sources. Of course, we've got grant funds and other things too, and start to think about alternative ways to bring that down. Maybe, would it be beneficial for Jerome here if he only took out 10,000 instead of 20? Yeah, of course. Would it be beneficial to take 15 instead of 20? Sure, right? But we just don't do that. Our culture is, well, what's the max I could get, right? And then if I have leftover money, that'll allow me to go, out to eat a little more often or something, right? So the mentality is totally twisted around. Instead of being gazelle intense and trying to avoid the cheetah, we just give that cheetah a big old hug. We're like, it's so great that you're funding my education, and we got low interest. It's the best interest rate out there. So kind of challenge yourself to think how much you have to take out. Okay, questions or comments there? All right, because I think some people sometimes fall into a loop of whether they have to do it, and I don't think they do. All right, now Austin. Austin's a junior. We got spring break coming up, so this might apply to some of you. Now, Austin, I don't know if this is you or not. You can tell after we read through this here. Austin's a junior in college. Recently returned from a spring break trip to Panama City with his friends. However, the vacation followed Austin home. He ended up putting the entire trip on his credit card, including the airfare, 2-night hotel stay, entertainment, food, other expenses. He already had a $1,750 balance on the credit card prior to the trip and added $2,000 of spring break expenses to that. Austin now has almost $4 grand to pay off. Between the large credit card payments and other monthly bills, he's having trouble paying all of his bills. This month, Austin found himself $275 short of paying his bills. On top of all that, he's stressed because his employer is considering cutting his 20-hour-a-week job down to 10. Austin's trying to find a way to fairly pay all of his debts, knowing that everyone won't get paid this month. His savings is down to $100. He's thought about bankruptcy. He's finding fewer and fewer options to get out of his situation. So now, I would like you to think about this one and write it down. How would you handle Austin's situation? What advice are you going to give Austin? So write it on the back side of your debt snowball thing. So Austin, I want to go to you first. What advice do you have for Austin?
So that first we can do the snowball, try and get everything on paper, do it as the most expensive, least expensive, any of this is great. Get that settled, and then after that, try and get a second or third job, just to have a backup in case this first job is like that's an hour too short.
Okay.
And third, I said to do a garage sale.
All right. Gotcha. All right. Who wants to add on to that? I think there's some stronger advice you could add. You didn't say anything bad or wrong there, but Daly?
I would say you get another job without like a paycheck to go to your.
Okay. Now that kind of ties in here, but I'll just add on and basically the paycheck to debts. So Austin and I, we got the debt snowball, good advice. Get a new job or another job, have a garage sale, love all that. But what else does Austin need to do every couple weeks, probably every paycheck? Budget. So add on to your paper there. That's probably number one. I told you that's the most powerful tool that we have in our arsenal is the zero-based budget. You need to explain to Austin how to budget because he's coming up short every month, right? Or this month anyway. And so he really needs to see it on paper, have a plan of where his money's going. And then what you guys are suggesting here, it all kind of flows from the budget. Like a certain amount's going to go towards the debt snowball. He gets a new job. He's got more income. That gets plugged into the new budget, right? He starts to see the light of day if we can add in the new jobs money and it starts to balance things out. Okay. So lastly, we got Yvonne and the student loan debt. So Yvonne will be graduating in December with a degree in elementary education. Thanks to her hard work, she already has a third grade teaching job lined up after she graduates. It'll be her first time in life that she'll make more than minimum wage. Because she wasn't able to make enough money while in college, she took out some student loans to help pay off her education. She's got $15,000 in student loan debt and $3,000 on a credit card. Yvonne must start paying back the student loans once she's out of school, and she is already making payments to her credit card debt. So what is the first thing that Yvonne should pay back after she graduates? What is the first thing? She's got 3,000 credit cards, 15,000 in student loan. What's the first thing she should pay back? Taylor?
You should pay off the credit card because it probably has higher interest.
Good answer, wrong support, I guess. From the Dave Ramsey perspective,
Less money.
why are you paying off that credit card first, Hannah? You pay your lowest debt first, regardless. So you snuck in that little interest thing and it probably has higher interest. We're going to ignore the interest with the debt snowball. So we're ordering it by that amount. And she's going to hopefully be gazelle intense at getting that off, but ordering using the debt snowball, that'll give her an early victory, right? And the credit card will be gone. She's following the baby steps. We're in baby step number 2, paying off all the debt, using the debt snowball to get it done. So should Yvonne save up for money for an emergency fund first or start paying off her debts first? Which would be more important, emergency fund or paying off her debts first? Emergency fund, why?
Because if she just pays off all her debt, and for some reason she gets to the hospital.
Is an emergency going to happen to Yvonne?
Yes.
Yes, we're positive of it, right? So it's not like if, it's kind of like when something happens. And so how big is that emergency fund that you'd recommend her? 500 if she's making less than 20,000, but it sounds like she's making over 20 with her new job. So it should be 1,000 if she's making more than that. Okay. And then we got kind of a game plan. So why don't you? So number 3, all I want you to do is write down the 7 baby steps, and we'll call it a day. So number 3, create a game plan. The game plan for Yvonne is really the baby steps. And you guys can talk to your neighbor on this one. See if you guys can all drum them up together. Oh, Josh is already resourceful, looking on his laptop. So that's all right. Baby steps.
Yeah, I mean,
No, that's fine. Whatever. I didn't see that. So baby steps 1 through 7. Get them done. Turn them in, and we're done for today. So chapter 3 is all due Wednesday nights. All of the chapter 3 stuff. We'll start number 4 on Thursday.